What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods back with another 2 minute drill episode, man. Friday, August 6th, 2021, man. We didn't have an episode yesterday because we had the live stream up for the AAC preview, so go check that out. Also, go check out our interview yesterday with Will Cholo from Troy. Great defensive tackle, man. A shout out to him for coming on. And today, we got another defensive tackle from the AAC, Morris Joseph Jr. from Memphis, man. Go check out the interview. Both of those guys are going to be future NFL stars, man. So make sure to check that out and check out all our interviews from this past week and like the past 4 weeks we've had. Shout out to all the players for coming on. Starting next week, starting next week to the end of the football season. We're taking a break. We're not going to bother these players during the season. We're going to let them focus on their craft, focus on their work. Their schedule's already busy enough. We already got some players lined up for the all season, man. I can't wait to announce that. So stay tuned and make sure to subscribe now and turn on your post notifications so you can stay tuned to all things Blue Bloods right here on YouTube. But we got to go to the SEC. We got to go to Brandon City, Brandon School. The LSU Tigers had some unfortunate news come out this past week, and that is Myles Brennan is going to be out 8 to 12 weeks with a broken arm. It happened on a fishing trip in which supposedly, according to his dad, I believe, his flip-flop got stuck in the dock or something like that, and he fell and didn't have time to brace himself. And, he thought it was like a deep bone bruise or something like that, and they ended up saying it was a full-on fracture. So he just had surgery, Brandon, I believe 2 days ago, I think, and now he's in recovery, and we wish him all the best. And so, Brandon, how big of a loss is this for LSU? And I know it was a 2 quarterback battle, so we know Max Johnson's going to start, but what is LSU losing here with Myles Brennan, and what was the reaction of the fan base and the team?
So really, more than anything, what they're losing is like this sense of leadership that came from Brennan. This is a guy who's been with the program for what? It's been like 5 years now, I think. And this is his 5th year at LSU. So, I mean, more than anything, we're just losing a guy who, and I say we, coming from the LSU fan base, I'm not on the team, but we're losing a guy who a lot of fans adored. I mean, I adored him. I love this kid ever since the second he committed to LSU. Even when he decommitted and then committed again, I still I was so hyped for this guy to be on campus. And I know I've talked about it before, but just at the time, LSU had been kind of having a big rough spot. I wrote an article about this a couple months ago, as a matter of fact. And then you see Myles Brennan come on campus, and it's just like, wow, praise the Lord. We have a guy. He has an arm. He is athletic, and he, if things had gone the right way, he was legitimately, I think he could have been an NFL caliber quarterback. Now I'm not so certain, just because of the way things have unfolded with the injuries, with everything else. I mean, it's been so unfortunate. He was supposed to be the starter before Joe Burrow transferred in. So, as a sophomore, he was going to start. And then, Joe Burrow comes in, and here we are. So we're losing this sense of leadership. All the guys on the team loved him, from what I heard. I mean, like I said, I'm not on the team, but from the reports I've heard, everybody loved this guy. He brought that leadership to the locker room. Also, I mean, what we're losing is a guy with a giant arm. We're losing a guy with a ton of experience, because even though he didn't start for until last season, he played in games. From the time that he was on campus, he would finish off games that LSU was winning. He would play in games against the out of conference opponents, as long as LSU was winning there again. He had a ton of experience. He took a ton of reps, and now you're just kind of losing that. And yes, Max Johnson did play toward the end of the season last year. A lot of guys kind of projected him to be the starter anyway. So who's to say who would have started? But potentially LSU could have lost their starting quarterback in Myles Brennan here. So that's what we're losing. But Max Johnson's coming up, and Myles Brennan's still going to be on campus. He's still going to be on the field during games. He's still going to have this sense of leadership from him. He's going to have a guy to look up to, a guy who was in the huddle for Joe Brady's offense and Steve Ensminger's offense in 2019, who's been through that, who's seen that offense, who, before he got injured last season, Zach, Myles Brennan was doing pretty okay. Yeah, he made a couple of mistakes, some costly interceptions in the first few games, but he was also, I mean, he was on pace to lead the SEC in passing yards, and he was on pace to lead the SEC in passing touchdowns. Before he got hurt, he of course got hurt, and here we are. LSU went 5-5 last season. Who knows what would happen if he would have been healthy? But yeah, I mean, this is just giant. It's really just heart wrenching, is what it is more than anything. Just because of the injury last season, where everybody I know LSU fans as a whole, at least from what I could tell, were heartbroken over that injury because we didn't know if he would ever recover or ever see the field again. Then we get this sense of hope, like, oh, he's recovered from it. This is a miracle. And then he breaks his arm. And it's just, once again, it's like our hearts ripped out of our chest. And yeah, so we move on, and it looks like Max Johnson has the job secured. And hopefully he can do something great with this offense.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's another storyline within one is that there was some talk before the season that Myles Brennan would never be able to play football again after his injury last year, and now he gets back. Some people said, depending on what opinion or beat reporter you subscribe to, he was going to be the starting QB for LSU, and now his flip-flop unfortunately gets caught in a piece of wood and he falls, and now he's out for over half the season. It's just there's those players where you're just like, man, can they ever catch a break? You look at like RG3 once he got to the NFL. I mean, you look at just so many of these players where it's like, man, if they just caught a break, what could they have been? What
Right.
could it have been? And this is Myles Brennan with the transfer of Joe Burrow, with the injury last year, with this, because Brennan, he was playing. None of the losses I think LSU had last year you could probably put solely on Brennan.
No, I don't think that he was the cause of any loss. I think there were a lot of things at play, but I don't think it was his fault at all. Like I said, he was on pace to lead the SEC in passing yards.
No, and he was he was playing really well, and it's just unfortunate. And listen, I know some of you guys are going to know the few people who have said this who have done this topic and started this narrative that Myles Brennan shouldn't have put himself in this situation. Myles Brennan, you can't do this. This dude wasn't renting a motorcycle or renting a crotch rocket going 150 on the interstate, putting his life in danger. He was just fishing in someone's backyard with his dad. Like, if you can't do that as a player, you can't walk across the street to go get food.
I was about to say, dude, like how many guys do you know who get injured fishing? It was a freak accident. I don't want to hear this from anybody. And so I don't know, man. That gets me fired. You can't do
listen. If you can't say that, and I get it if he was going doing something reckless or putting himself in a dangerous situation where people get hurt most of the time or an avoidable situation. Man, the odds of you tripping and falling because your flip flop gets stuck in a dock has to be lower than like you tripping and falling and like accidentally spraining your it's just a weird thing that happened. And for any announcer, anybody who covers hospital to put the blame on Myles Brennan, you were way out of touch with life itself. I mean, and it's sad. And so, we'll leave it at that. We wish Myles Brennan the best recovery, but we want to shift into what this LSU offense is going to be now with Max Johnson. Brandon, we saw it for 6 games last year, threw for over 1,000 yards in 6 games, 8 touchdowns, 10 total touchdowns, and only 1 turnover, 1 pick. And he was one of the best quarterbacks down the stretch, led LSU to a huge upset win over Florida in the Swamp, which is probably one of the, as much as LSU really didn't have much to play for, that might have been one of the biggest wins in LSU history right there. I mean, it was huge for the fan base, huge for that team and their morale. I think this team is buying into Max Johnson, Brandon. I really do. I think they saw what he could do as a freshman last year, and now you get a full offseason in this offense because, Brandon, we don't even think about that. Last year, he didn't have an offseason, barely had a fall camp, and just got thrown into the fray when no one ever expected him to see the field. There was nobody who thought Max Johnson was going to throw a pass for LSU last year, and he goes out and does this. Now he has the confidence, he has the momentum, he has the preparation, and I think now, Brandon, he has the talent surrounding him as well to really be special in this LSU offense. So I've been vocal on this podcast. I thought Max Johnson was the best quarterback on LSU's roster. So I think they're fine at quarterback. But what is your opinion on what he's going to bring to this offense? And do you think it's going to be better than what we saw at the end of last year?
I definitely think it's going to be better than what we saw at the end of last season, Zach. And I don't even think that's just that he's matured or that his decision-making has gotten slightly better. He's an athlete. He really is. And so he has that dual threat quarterback mentality. You know, he's not a true dual threat quarterback. He's a pocket passer, but he can move when he needs to. And I'm not comparing him to Joe Burrow because he's not Joe Burrow, but it's Joe Burrow-esque in that LSU's never really had a quarterback like this that can do both, that can pass and that can run. It's really either been one-sided for most of LSU.
You either get Jordan Jefferson or you get a Myles Brennan.
Yeah, so like, I mean, take your choice. Joe Burrow brought both to the table, and that's in Joe Brady's offense. That made him successful. That made LSU successful. And Max Johnson showed us last year he can do similar things. And hopefully by the time that he's done, with next season or if he comes back for a senior year that season, we'll see him grow to be much more like that in his own way. I don't want to compare him to anybody because he is Max Johnson. So I want Max Johnson to be the best Max Johnson he can be, but that's the kind of thing we're going to see with him. You didn't bring up the Ole Miss game. I thought that was an excellent outing for him. He helped Kayshon Boutte break the single game passing record for the SEC as a true freshman. So that in and of itself is impressive. Kayshon's coming back. He'll be on the roster. He'll more than likely be wide receiver 1 for LSU. So that's super exciting. But one more thing to look at, Zach, are the offensive coordinator and passing game coordinator that LSU brought in. The two guys who were on staff when LSU won the national title in 2019, and they're basically like Joe Brady was their mentor. And then he suggested them to LSU. He was on the Panthers staff last year with Joe Brady. Like, he followed them around, or they followed him around. But now they're back on LSU's campus, and they're calling plays for them. So what's super exciting about that to me is that no, we're not going to get a Joe Brady offense, because I know that's what everybody thinks. We're going to come out, we're going to run the same exact offense that Joe Brady ran. That's just not possible. I think we get kind of like a watered down version of that. It's something similar, but I think it's an offense that Max Johnson could truly succeed in. So that's exciting to me because, like I said, he is Joe Burrow-esque in the way that he plays his game. So I think that this offense will allow him to succeed a lot more than last year did, because we kind of saw LSU take a step back from this true spread offense that they ran in 2019 to more of a kind of spread, kind of pro, kind of whatever style offense last season, kind of a big mixture of a lot of things. Next season, I think we're going to see a big change in the offensive scheme that's going to help Max Johnson succeed. But I want to say one more thing before you go.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have to get this out. One thing I am concerned about, Zach, and a lot of people aren't really talking about it, which is nuts to me, is LSU's depth in their quarterback room now. And it's non-existent. It's Max Johnson and Garrett Nussmeier, who are the two scholarship quarterbacks at all. That's it. It's just those two for the first 8 games, at least, if not 12 games, if not the whole season. So that's terrifying. That's something really scary. And Garrett Nussmeier is going to be a great, great quarterback whenever it's all said and done. I think he's really going to grow into the position and show us all wrong. But the spring game was tough, and I'm not going to judge him just based off of that. But I just don't think he's ready to start. So if something does happen to Max Johnson, LSU could be in trouble.
Okay, so yes, I was going to get to the depth. Okay. And I want to look it up, bro. I'm trying to do my research real quick on quarterbacks in the transfer portal right now.
Still has a chance at another quarterback.
why wouldn't he? I
That's
mean, you can bring somebody in because you aren't expecting them to start right this second, right?
That's true. I mean, you could. It just seems really, really late. And I understand that still like half the players that entered the transfer portal last season are still in the transfer portal. That was like a
Yeah.
big thing that we mentioned during SEC media days. I think Lane Kiffin brought it up. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. It just seems really late right now, especially like how many reps could they truly get before the season started and stuff like that. I know we still have a month, but
I mean, you have a month, and uh, I get it. Like, it is definitely late. I understand that, but if you could just get somebody with what half, like, just partial the experience that you can get with someone like what Nussmeier has zero chance, like you said, zero chance to really contribute this year, right?
I think so.
I mean, it would be very late in the season to do
And,
that. So I just don't. I just think what if you can get somebody from like the FCS level, something like that. I personally think it would be better than getting nobody. And for me, the biggest thing, Brandon, is I heard this narrative. So I want to get your opinion on this. You mentioned the running ability of Max Johnson is going to be what separates him from the other quarterbacks at LSU. There's been this narrative that they're not going to let him run as much because of that depth.
yeah,
Do you think that's true, or do you think they're going to be so? For me, if you take his running ability away completely, then you take away what Max Johnson does that's special, that separates him, and you take away that it factor that I've talked about on this podcast with him. What I think you need to do is make sure he doesn't take dumb shots. Now, when Joe Burrow was playing, there were some games, especially that Auburn game, Brandon, in particular, where he took some huge shots that he didn't need to take.
Zach, I've been watching, and this is kind of weird, but this is how we operate, you and I. I've been going back and watching the 2019 season, like game by game, and I watched the Auburn game last night. It was tough. It was a tough game.
It was a great defensive scheme, but in the red zone, I think is where it is going to be the most because his running ability really opens up the playbook inside the red zone, especially when you get inside the 10, Brandon. That little bit of extra athleticism could really help you separate 3 from 7 points. I think they still have to make. I get it. The injury is a big thing. But if you take away his legs, you hurt your red zone offense. You hurt his ability to be the quarterback that he is. And what you just need to do is make sure he's smart. And I'm sure Max Johnson's smart enough to know, hey, I can't take a hit on the sideline. I can't take a hit after I get the first down. Let me just get down and get to the next play. If I see a free blitzer, get down. Don't try to make too much out of nothing. And that's where you force 1 turnovers and 2 injuries. But for me, Brandon, this offense is going to benefit so much from Max Johnson being the quarterback. We're doing our SEC preview, soon, and I was already trying to prepare on what LSU's record was going to be. I have LSU 2 or 3 wins better with Max Johnson at quarterback than I did Myles Brennan.
It's weird that I'm going to say this, but I'm super excited that you do have that because when you predicted LSU to win the SEC when nobody else did, they won the SEC. So thank you, Zach. Thank you for having them winning 2 or 3 more games than they did with Myles Brennan.
Hey, last year I said they were going to fall off a little bit, and
they fell off more than you thought they would. But
that's true. That's true. 5-5 was tough. That's a bad look.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right, Zach, because I don't know if they're going to let him run nearly as much as he would probably like to, but I don't think they're going to restrict him 100%, because that is his game.
Right.
It does change, though, because he doesn't have a Myles Brennan backing him up. And what really hurts LSU, and what I think, hindsight's 2020, obviously, but I don't think they fought nearly hard enough to keep TJ Finley on this roster. Yeah, I know he wanted to start wherever he went. He wanted to play. I don't think he's going to end up starting at Auburn this season. Not like at the beginning of the season. But like, man, imagine having TJ Finley on this roster still and having him as the backup to Max Johnson right now. Now that Myles Brennan's out for a good bit of the season, majority of the season, really. So that's man, that is huge. That was a huge loss, and I've been like killing myself over it all day. That's been terrible.
And you mentioned the the offense last year not really being the same. I honestly blame it. So I guess you don't kill the messenger. That lack of run game really is what separated last year's offense from the 2019. People don't give Clyde Edwards-Helaire enough credit for what he did to open up that offense.
That's true, and really more than anything, what Edwards-Helaire did was he was basically the passing back. So like we saw John Emery back there actually running the ball. Like if you go back and watch like the first couple games that LSU had, or even their first couple SEC games, like you see John Emery taking a handoffs, and you see him running the ball up the gut and being his power back. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes in. He can do the same thing. He's a smaller guy. He's really speedy, but mostly he's a power back, or not a power back, a receiving back. And that was made all the difference in the world, because LSU's never had that before. And I think it kind of took a lot of people by surprise, a lot of teams by surprise. LSU has the depth at running back right now, and it was just so underutilized last season. It's like they couldn't figure out who they wanted to start ever because they had three running backs last year, right? And they didn't want to commit to one of them and be like, oh, you're the starter. They wanted to rotate them in and out, which is fine, but it didn't work out for LSU. They have to figure something out this season. They have to name, and I think they have named theirs. I think John Emery is going to be the starter. Curry transferred out. He's at Utah now. I think
he's going to be he's going to be a starter there. I remember we had our Utah episode for our Pac-12 set month, and they're so pumped to have him on the roster.
I would be too. He's incredible, and LSU just didn't utilize him the way that they should have. He wore number 18 last season. That's like LSU's big thing. And if you're an LSU fan watching this, you know what that means. He wore number 18 and then he transferred because you didn't utilize him. Come on, like that's so.
And this year, if LSU, I'm not saying the easy wins. It's whatever. You're going to be able to run the ball because you're bigger and stronger than the guy across from you. But for LSU to be successful, they're going to have to run the ball against Texas A&M, against Ole Miss, against Alabama, against Florida, even against Auburn and Arkansas. You're going to have to run the ball. And if they get too pass heavy and just let Max Johnson sit back there and, just get teed off on at times or get too predictable, this LSU offense, man, I have a tough time seeing them take a step forward. But you're going to have to find, like you said, a feature back. And I'm hoping they
have a stable is the thing. Like, and I know I already said that, but they have John Emery. They have Tyrion Davis-Price. Corey Kiner's a freshman. Armani Goodwin, you know all about him, Zach. He's a true freshman. Kavontre Bradford, dude. He didn't play a down last season, but he was on the team. I don't know. Like, he had so much hype going into the season. He didn't play.
I mean, a two-back system isn't bad, but you have to have that one guy where if it's 3rd down and 3, he's got it.
Yeah.
That's what separates championship contenders from the average teams. And when you look around the SEC, the good teams have that. And not even just the good teams. Most teams have that. You look at Alabama, Brian Robinson steps in that RB1 role. This is his first year as the full-time starter. I bet you they feel confident with him getting that first down. Kendall Milton at Georgia, I bet you they feel extremely confident. And Ole Miss, they'll probably pass for it, but they probably have faith that Matt Corral could even. And then you got Isaiah Spiller at Texas A&M. You got the kid, I'm blanking on his name, the South Carolina running back. He's a monster. It's like Kevin something, but he's a beast. He was one of the best freshmen last year. And then even your in-division rival Auburn has Tank Bigsby, where if it's 3rd and 5, they probably can give it to him and he can get it. And so LSU is going to have to find that feature back. I'm excited to see what they do. I'm excited to see this offense of Max Johnson. Man, we wish Myles Brennan the best. But, guys, if you're tuned in, especially if you're an LSU fan, man, comment down below what you think about the Myles Brennan injury. Comment down below what you think the offense is going to look like with Max Johnson and whether that change of play calling is going to be needed, and or if you just think they should just say, hey, screw it, we got to go get these wins. So let us know in the comments. Guys, make sure to go check out all our interviews. We got some big names coming next week as well. So shout out to all the players, man, who gave us a shot to interview them exclusively right here on the Blue Bloods. But guys, I will be back tomorrow, Saturday, August 7th, with our Sun Belt preview. So make sure to tune in. That'll be a live stream, 7 p.m. Central. Beto's going out of town, but he will be back next week. And next week, we got our SWAC preview and our ACC preview both next week. So make sure to tune into both of those. But guys, y'all have a great weekend. But for B-Dub, myself, and the Blue Bloods, we are out for now.